Welcome back, everyone, to Answers On from Davos 2020. I'm joined today on our balcony by Louise Pentland, Chief Business Affairs and Legal Officer at PayPal, and Brian Pecorelli, COO Customer Markets, Thomson Reuters. Very nice to see both of you. We're nearing the end of the week, so we can start breathing again soon. I want to start, Louise, with cashless society. How close are we generally, would you say, and how worrisome is that for the regulators in your view?
So I think it's still very much a country by country, I think, assessment. I think some countries are much further ahead. I think regulators are still grappling with how to regulate and how to keep control over their financial systems. And so I think it's getting more adoption, but I think it's still not at a pace I think we'd all like to see.
Where do you put the US regulator in all of this?
Yeah, I think that, look, the US regulators are learning, and I think, I mean, we still live in a country in the US where people use checkbooks, so I still think it's going to take some time, but I think the US regulators see the writing on the wall, but they want to embrace it with a caution and a safety, and, there's a lot of financial crime that runs through the US rails, and I think they're trying to be prudent.
Brian, do you think we come down too hard on this idea of regulators being behind the curve and not really, keeping up with play, if you like?
Well, I think that's true in a whole host of areas, especially the last 5 or 10 years with technology shifts and everything else, just from autonomous vehicles, for instance. It's another one trying to catch up on how do you regulate it, how do you ensure it, et cetera, playing catch up. So I think this is just another area of technology explosion, new generation coming on board, and looking at things, and regulators got to figure it out.
Yeah. I just want to read a quote to you that I heard from Jerry Seinfeld. He said, "What do you do with Uber? You take Uber because there's no money. It's like free. Do we pay for that? I think it just comes with the phone." And I raise this because this sort of brings in this idea of financial health and well-being, and this idea that kids of today really don't have a sense as we used to of money and its worth. Would you agree with that?
I actually wouldn't agree with that.
Okay.
I think kids do have a sense of money. I think they're actually, in some ways smarter than our generation was, because they're thinking about how to, share and split payments in a digital way. And I think, if we'd had that, I think it would have made us more conscious about money than I think we've been as a generation. So I think kids are definitely living in a technology age where I think it's probably hard for us to fully comprehend what life was like, but I think they're embracing it. And what I see through users of our platform like Venmo is that people really do understand money.
How responsible are companies like PayPal in educating people?
Yeah. So look, because our core mission is democratizing financial services, we want everyone not to be intimidated by financial services. And that means that we want to give, simple solutions and education. We're doing it with our customers. We work with a lot of entrepreneurs. And we're also doing it with our own employees, who we also know struggle with understanding financial wellness.
We've talked, Brian, a lot this week about the digital divide and the skills gap and what you at Thomson Reuters as leaders are addressing this. What more can we expect?
Well, I think just what Louise was talking about, the education. How do we continue to educate people? We've talked before about educating our employee base and this and that and bringing them along with this technological change. I think the same's true with the population, the general public, et cetera, on some of these technologies. We have to look at how do you educate them? How do you, teach them? How do you show them and bring them along?
Do you think, Louise, that CEOs of the financial services companies, all the non-techs, need to be digitally savvy?
Do you think that's a requirement these days?
I do, because I think the industry is going there whether we like it or not, because it's just more convenient, and it allows people to be much more global than I think they've ever been before, and markets are opening up. So I think everybody is going to have to embrace a digital economy.
Security is another area I'd like to talk about, and we talk about it every year, of course. But what are our clients saying now about security, and what are we telling them?
I think it's top of mind for all of them as far as joining forces. But security has to be tackled by joining both the business side of things with governments, with security agencies, with the technology companies, et cetera, all working together to solve a problem that's very real out there and will persist. So it's about how do you team, how do you join up and continue to stay ahead of the curve.
I mean, this must be way at the top of the list or very, very high up for you guys. I mean, how are you staying ahead of the curve? And look, I won't ask the question, how do you stay ahead of bad actors? Because I guess you don't, but how do you keep up with them?
Yeah, look, we have pretty robust investment and then some incredible people who are thinking about this every single day. Yeah, the bad guys are getting more and more sophisticated, but I think just like Brian said, look, it's a team sport now. This isn't a competitive advantage for one company or another. We've all got to pool our resources and our knowledge to really stay ahead of what is a continuum, a day in, day out.
Because I guess it comes back to the trust issue, doesn't it? Once that trust is breached, it's very hard in this context to get it back. I hear more and more this week, it's one strike and you're out.
Yeah, I think that's unfortunately the world we live in now, right, with 24-hour media coverage. And I think, look, it's been a big topic here at Davos this week. I think for a financial services company like ours, trust is a core currency component for us. We have to earn it every day, and we better not lose it.
Quick word on trust from you, Brian.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a core part of what we do each and every day, and I think more and more for business in general, it's a core part. It's a core part for governments. Trust just emulates across everybody these days.
And I'll put my 2 cents in as well, core for the media as well, of course. But very quick final question, and sorry, this just sprung into my mind. It seems to me, tell me if I'm wrong, but a real lack of discussion on cryptocurrencies and blockchain here in Davos this year. I haven't really heard it mentioned much. Am I missing something?
You may not be going to the right sessions.
Maybe that's it, yeah. Maybe that's it. So it's still right up there,
It's very much there,
It is? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, I'll stop it there. Louise Pentland, Chief Business Affairs Legal Officer at PayPal, Brian Pecorelli, COO at Thomson Reuters. Thanks to both of you. That is it for this edition of Answers On. I'm Axel Threlfall.